Here we go then, on to the Rift. YIA taking on UAL. If you want to hazard a guess as to what those letters stand for. Without actually looking at what their names are, because that's cheating.
I'm thinking, well, when I see YIA, I think of like, yesterday I asked you, that like
Okay.
YouTube series that's been going on for like 10 years.
For me, YIA is you're inting again.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Is that something you hear often? You get people drop that one?
Yeah, I get that a
on the
lot in
daily,
solo queue, yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Misunderstood.
Yeah, it's just alternative strategies.
Do we have anything for UAL then?
University above Lancaster.
University above Lancaster.
Yeah, not University of Lancaster, but University above Lancaster.
I'm trying to think
Minions
what is
have
above
spawned.
Lancaster geographically. Is Blackpool above
Well,
Lancaster or below?
Scotland at some point, right?
Scotland.
Like,
Yeah, eventually you make your way to Scotland. You know, University of the Arctic, right?
yeah, that must be the one.
Now, maybe I'm going with a similar theme here. But I'm thinking Urgot always loses.
Well, there's no Urgots in this game, so we might be finding ourselves with a bit of a paradox. But what we do have is a bit of a retro comp over on the UAL side. Graves jungle, Malzahar mid, not really things we see all too often. But it does make for a really nice, front-to-back type of comp when you have the Malzahar, the Karma, the Varasol, and the Volibear holding people in place. And then, Varus, Malzahar, and Graves are all putting out DPS onto that front line. And frontline definitely a term for YIA, as they have the Nunu, the Lee Sin, and the Silas all standing up being beefy boys, whilst Senna and Jin hide out in the back. So both teams really just looking for that sort of face-to-face clash. And we're going to need to see how the early game progresses to find out who will take the advantage when it comes to those clashes later on.
And we're actually seeing 4 junglers being picked up, the Lee Sin and Volibear, the top lane, saying, why have standard top lane champions when we can have junglers duking it out? And in the bottom lane, we're not seeing any of those engaged support. It's the Senna against the Karma, more of these supportive champions that will be looking up, looking to shield their allies. And they're already duking it out. A lot of damage being thrown out in the opening 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, that's pretty good for YIA. Is UAL's bot lane of Varus and Karma is pretty, that's pretty much the strongest bot lane that there is right now, especially in terms of push and lane priority. But right now we actually see the winning trades and the wave coming, or the wave being pushed by YIA. So they're doing pretty well for themselves here in this matchup that should be unfavorable.
And I want to talk a little bit about kind of macros and how we can expect the team fights to play out. Presumably we do get team fights later on into the game, and it's not a one-sided game. Because when I look over to YIA, the only real engage I see is, maybe the Silas finding something, Nunu Snowball, of course, and then the Lee Sin going for the Insect. But then I look over to the side of UAL, and I see a few more tools. I'll say, hold that, because there's a Graves showing his face in the bottom lane, and it is a 3v2 to heal by some movement speed, as a Jin running for the hills, and will be able to escape picking up a Dark Harvest stack in the process. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, First Blood going over to the side of the YIA mid.
Yeah, we got to put some respect on these gank timings here. If you're knowing that the enemy jungler started up on the top side of the map because the enemy bot lane didn't leash for him, you can sort of expect him to be turning up in your lane at any moment. And I mean, honestly, as much as you hate to say it, if you're versus a Nunu, you can expect him to be mid at some point. It may be with Ghost and Cleanse, or it may be to gank you, but he's going to be there. So rough times ahead for Leo here as well. We got 2 Leos both rocking up in mid lane. Without trying to be too biased, really hope that UAL do not make it into the finals for that reason, and that reason alone, as we see junglers chasing each other down here in the bot lane.
And Star just can't quite close down the Grave. He's able to fight his way out to safety, and now the Nunu will turn his attention towards his front. And Graves will just help shove that wave in to allow the Varus and the Karma to get off a nice early reset. We've got Drake up in 10 seconds time, so they can get this reset off and make their way towards Drake. They might be able to pick it up free of.
Yeah, they got a good timing for it. They're a little bit late, but You know, YIA also do need to reset. The item advantage will be in favor of the University of Arts London squad, as we found out that's what that stands for. And so it looks like YIA actually not contesting and not resetting either. So there really are some opportunities here for UAL to move in towards that Drake once they gain control of that their river. One thing to throw back to a little bit is you were talking about how does, you know, the engage come out for YIA. And, you know, the answer is that they do sort of only really have a snowball, but they have a couple of other tricks up their sleeve. They have, you know, Jin ultimate does make for a good engage tool, and they have his root as well. But also, they've got a Silas. And with a Silas, that means they have a Malzahar ult. They have a Varus ult, which has a massive AP scaling on it. And they have a Volibear ult as well. So there are definitely going to be options for YIA later on in the game, but they will have to be a little bit specific with how they pick their fights. They are working with, you know, limited resources. It's not like a Leona or Nautilus where you just throw out hooks until they hit. However, bearing in mind most of their engages, you know, going to be coming from that Silas and his ultimate usage, the same all applies to the members of UAL holding onto those ultimates that the Silas wants to steal.
And actually, that seems like a very good light drafting hack, you know? If you don't have engage, just hijack away the enemy's engage.
Or, alternatively, the enemy team picks Silas, just draft a team with bad ults. Not, these ults aren't bad, but you know what I'm saying? Just draft a bad team. They took Viego Silas, let's just lock Yumi ADC. What are they going to do with that? You know, you got to think ahead with these kinds of things.
Hang on. If Silas stole the final chapter, got CC, I think you want something more like Elise, right? You know, Silas steals Elise. What's that going to do? Elise has got her CC from a cocoon. You need
and
champs
Viego
that have...
steals Elise? He gets nothing. He misses half her kit.
Is that how it works? You don't get both forms? Oh, because you need
yeah,
the
because you can't ult. It's the same for it's the same for Silas. Same with Nidalee, same with Jace. This is big brain. And Shyvana kind of, but not really. It's 50-50.
That's weird because when I remember when Silas came out, that was kind of a thing. But then didn't they change it so that when Silas like stole Nidalee and stuff, he could then use their forms for a bit rather than just pressing up?
No, so there was like I think it was like bugged or something. But essentially the way that it works now is Silas steals their ultimate, right? Yes. Which I think always is the form that's not human. They don't spawn as, right? So like Jace is he defaults as the hammer form, and then you change into cannon form. Nidalee, you default as human, you change into a cougar, and Elise, you default as a human, you change into a spider. And I think that when Silas casts that ult, so he will always go to be cannon form Jace or Tiger Elise or sorry, Tiger Nidalee or Spider Elise. Not too pertinent right now, as none of those champions, bar the Silas, are in the game, but it's still worth knowing, keeping an eye on.
I mean, I still think one of the most broken things Silas can steal is the Gnarl, because you know you don't need to get your rage bar stacked up, and you know Silas has got tools to reposition. Okay, I know you're gonna say wait, no, it's Hecarim and Alistair, isn't it? That's supposed to be the most broken.
I mean, I was going to say Alistair's up there, but it's like it's Alistair, it's Nunu, it's Ashe, it's Thresh. It's all the old champions that have really high AP ratios on their ults for like no reason. Yeah, Malphite, obviously, like Silas is the #1 counter for Malphite because of this. It's like the thing is that you know Silas into with Naro, yeah, cool, it's fine, but Naro is also balanced around a lot of things, because with his ult you also get hit like his mega form, kind of, if you think about it. And that way it's also got like a low cooldown, so it's like it's okay. As we see a bit of action down on bot, but not too much.
Well, double TP coming through. Now the curtain call is here. The slows are following, and Silas won't join the fight. They're not going to be able to connect to the flash forward, and the Pharaohs will fall. Silas picks up his second win of the game. Second kill for YIA.
Okay, well, we're getting that Silas engage ball rolling just a little bit. The game has been relatively uneventful. That might change as specific. Just comes ahead and banks out an extra kill, and now pressures onto Jin.
Really nice from Pacific. Just a quick draw over the wall, catching the center out of position. Pick up the free kill. Meanwhile, while all of that happened, I think Malzahar died to something, because right now the Silas is 3-0 instead of 2-0.
Curious. As we might see some deaths coming up in the top lane as well.
Sky Splitter comes through into the Volibear ultimate, and Ethan is so low. The absolute zero Volibear trying to flash out to safety, but will be unable to do so. And Star picks up the kill, the 4th kill to YIA.
Really getting the ball rolling there.
Oh no! No, that was a good one. That was
Hey.
you know,
Good one.
I'm not one of these people that pretends that I dislike puns. I appreciate puns, and you know, I'm happy to say that was a very good pun.
Certified banger.
True.
As Star Nizzy goes on over towards that there Rift Herald, which is not exactly a ball. I mean, it's an eyeball, right? So you're close, but it's not called eyeball of the Herald. It's called eye of the Herald. So it's like, you know, it's a little of this, a little of that.
What you're saying is YIA really had their eye on that.
Good save. Yeah. What I'm saying is I'm not really going anywhere with this, but what I'm saying is I'm grasping at straws.
I feel like, you know, we had a moment ago where we got to talk about high potential, and then all of a sudden the team decided, what's going on in this broadcast, right? What are they doing? Let's actually get some action. And now, you know, we don't know whether we should be just chilling or talking about hype stuff, because the team is kind of chilled again.
What happens is they hit 6, you know, there are a couple of things to fight around, some shenanigans, and well, that might be a little bit more action soon, because those ultimates are coming up, and there they are, just being deployed in the bottom lane. I'm a genius. How does he do it? As the dragon is spawned, and so that's a bit of a catalyst for action, hence why we find Pacific making his way down onto the bot lane, and this dragon now being started up by UAL.
I feel like Pacific has had a very strong performance so far in his team. He's only 2-0, but I feel like whenever he has made his presence known, he has been extremely impactful. As just taking a look as to where the Nunu is, he's on the top side of the map. So this Drake could just be a free dig up, and indeed is for Pacific.
Go ahead and grab themselves that one. Nice and easy, even them out to 1 apiece. But whilst that one's going on, the Herald being deployed up in top lane, so a lot of gold will be going over in favor of Masked Hero and Star Nizzy. However, they do drop that Herald a little bit early, so you know they're not getting that maximum value out of it as you get sort of the later it deploys, because of the Arbor and Magic Resist the tower gets. So the tower will stand, and they won't be taking away those final plates. The same may not be said for YIA's bot lane.
We've got a dive, not many minions left, but a flasher forward, and the Nether Grasp locks the Jin down, and now it's just the juggling act, the juggling of the tower aggro, and it is done so well by UAL. Teleport back into the mid lane from the Malzahar, catches the minion wave that has been shoved in his direction.
Very good. Make sure he can catch that up, and also, you know, dissuades any plays coming out from 18 there, because, you know, 18 wants to roam down to the bot side, join up with Star Nizzy. If Leo is already in the mid lane, already pushing, then you can really punish him for that. So now you make sure that the Malzahar is holding the Silas in lane, and your bot lane can continue to put out damage onto that tower again, securing themselves a lot of plates and evening up the scoreline.
Now, I'm just looking towards the mid. So you've got 18, who's 3-0, but UAL has 20 more CS, so he's not actually as far behind as one might have originally thought just by looking at the KDAs alone.
Okay, we see. What do we see looking over the gold here? I'm gonna level with you. I can't read it. My internet, not poggers, to say the least.
So I'll give you the break. I can give you the breakdown of the gold. 1,000 gold advantage for the Lee Sin right now. Jungle pretty much even. 400 advantage for 18. So you know, as you mentioned,
hang about.
Corruption coming through in the bottom lane, and the hail of arrows picks up the kill for Crossfire. He goes 2-1 on the virus.
All right, worry not. I have cracked open the stream on my phone. A little bit better. Where I can actually see it because I can force it to be higher quality, and I don't care if it buffers because I'm going to pause it anyway. So what are we seeing? Looking at the gold here. Ooh, yes, a 1,000 gold lead up in the top lane. Yes, curious. A somewhat even, you know, before both kills in the mid lane or in the bot lane, and then yeah, we got a little bit going back and forth, back and forth. What do you know? It's a relatively even game. Who'da thunk it?
And And that, ladies and gentlemen, was a brief insight into the mind of a doctor. As we got a brief glimpse of the tower falling in the bottom lane. That's the first tower of the game that's been picked up.
Yeah, it's a little bit of extra standing gold there being secured, and surely the first of many. We got a low health bar on that tower up top lane after the Herald was deployed, so that one's surely to be picked up at some point by YIA. And other than that, they may also be looking just to force any kind of siege up here in the mid lane. You know, you've got that first item completion on the mid, on jungle. You know, once those mythics come through for the bottom lane, you find yourself with a lot of pick potential. Granted, you get the right ultimate.
And the silencer drops so quickly, the teleport coming through, the potential turnaround. Flash out from the members of UAL, specifically UAL look out to kill. They're sick of the game. They won't be able to take the tower. They will just somewhat recall, although Pacific might be looking for the old flankaroonie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a scary situation for UAL. I mean, Pacific doesn't really want to be up here. The rest of his team were forced back by that play, but he finds himself the Grump and is able to make his way out of that jungle. Sliding on over the wall and securing the Grump in the process. Not quite what we saw, you know, like last lane from Ezerath going on in, just finding himself 1v4. This one's a little bit safer for Pacific to pull off. He's going to go ahead and grab that one and make his way over onto the bottom side of the map to see if he can't go ahead and secure that third dragon spawning up in just 30 seconds.
And now, 16 minutes into the game, we're seeing a 2k goal lead for the side of UAL. Do you think YIA can pull it back? Because whenever I look at a Nunu, I always have doubts, because you need such good setup, you need such hard CC to stop the enemy team from essentially just walking on out of your absolute zero.
Well, but that's the point, is that it's essentially more of a zoning tool than anything else. Like, you pop it and it would do a lot of damage, but Nunu is just a wall. What are you going to do? Right. You know, when people are trying to get to your backline, or as we said, both teams, they want their front lines to be clashing with each other. If people are walking out of your ult and prioritizing walking away from you, they're not putting out damage, they're not defending themselves, and that's when the DPS will start to come out. You know, from the Silas that's chasing them, or from the Jhin that's throwing down the ultimates, and the barrage of autos coming out from the long-range center. So even though people can just walk out of your ult, they don't have to cancel it. Just being there creates a huge amount of threat from the Nunu.
The Drake is up, both teams posturing towards it so far. The Drake side of YIA, the Drake side of UAL. The curtain call this time will be that zoning tool, and it forces the Shirelias to be used from the Karma. And now YIA have priority. And that's a potential pick. Flash away from the Jhin to keep themselves alive. The Railgun comes through. Now teleport as Crossfire onto a Rampage. The piercing arrow with a snipe. Chains of Corruption lands the CC. The volley bear jumping on into the back line. And this is going to be a one-sided fight. Piercing arrow. It's the triple kill. It's the quadra as well. But the Lee Sin is running for the hills. Wants to go in, but I don't think he should do that one, Chief. Unless you want to give a pentakill over to the Barracks, but Crossfire popping off in the river fight.
And that's a capitalization from UAL if I ever saw one. The second that Link's Resorts just oversteps, walks out round that corner, all 5 members going in on him, and then looking to clean up that ensuing 5v4, you know, fighting in the pit versus this Fed Graves, and everybody lines up nicely for Crossfire's Chains of Corruption to take out the entire YIA squad.
Now, while Star Nizzy might be having the Nunu and the biggest ever snowball right now, it's UAL who are rolling their snowball, and it is starting to gather a lot of momentum.
They're making some headway right now, you know, picking up the Muramana almost finished there, I believe. Let's see what the stack's looking at. It's close enough to 300, which is close enough to 360, right? So we're good. And, yeah, once we get that second item coming on through, you know, that Baron is up in just about a minute or so, and I don't think anyone's fighting over the Baron now. And both teams do have enough sort of range in their bot lane to sort of idly trade waves and siege, but you know, when that next dragon comes up, that's when UAL will have another opportunity to wipe a fight against YIA and then look towards the Baron. However, if they're greedy and try to start the Baron first, or positioning up towards there is definitely a... They're not so far ahead that they can force a Baron, and YIA might be able to capitalize, get a couple of shutdowns, maybe pick up the Baron for themselves if that ends up being the case.
And something probably to always remember is that whenever you try to go for a 50-50, well, when it's against a Nunu, it's not exactly a 50-50 because you
Not
got
quite.
2 sprites right there.
Yeah, you got yourself a, a cheeky 1900 damage from level 9, which is always always good.
Oh, this is a pick onto the Karma. The insect comes through. Mars Hero picks up the kill onto Booba T. The rest of UAL joining into the fray. Into Corruption will be able to find his mark, but that's the second kill and the shutdown for Mars Hero. And he right now is the hero that YIA needed. The ultimate keeps the body bag going, but that's a triple kill for the Lee Sin. And he says, yo, you know what, Crossfire? You take a quadra, I'll take a quadra.
And now the capitalization is from YIA, because UAL so far up in their jungle just don't need to be there. It's absolutely crushed by the members of YIA, and of course by Mars as well. Moving on through, picking up that Quadra Jazz, cleaning up house, collapsing in on the Graves before he can get any burst off. And again, sort of an issue that we're going to see here for the Graves is that he's fighting frontline. As we said, this is frontline versus frontline. And then you have that sort of long-range bot lane helping from a couple of miles back. And, things like the Gale Force aren't really going to help you out when it comes to taking out the Nunu. Or this tanky sustain-filled Lee Sin, the sustain of the Silas. And so when he's overstepped like that, boom, that front lane will just beat him down.
And I think at the top of the show, we were talking something about, whoever has more divine summoners will win. Right
True.
now, it's 1-0 in favor of YIA. And something that I did want to bring up was UAL had a commanding goal lead. Right now, it's only about 1,000 gold, maybe about 500 gold. But they've got the center stacking with the Mist. They've got this Silas that's going to be such a monster in the late game. And I was going to ask, what kind of point do you think we can expect YIA to come back? And now that we've had that fight, have we already hit that point?
Well, I think grabbing a Baron is always pretty good for yourself, right? Like that's always a good point to be hitting. But yeah, it ultimately they have more sustain over on their front line because of the Senna and because of the Silas, lesser extent Nunu and Lee Sin as well. And so if they can get through any atrocious early bursts from UAL, they tend to be okay. But at the same time, Malzahar is doing % max health damage with his Leandries, and Volibear has % health and sustain built in as well. So it's really, really hard to call. We just have to see how each fight plays out, because I can see either team winning a fight, even when they're, a couple of K behind, just if someone oversteps. At the same time, I can see fights being decided by just 500 gold in favor of one team, because it feels somewhat stat checky if everyone plays it right. There's a lot of variance here, whilst also being very little. And I'm aware that I have not really said a lot, despite saying a lot there, but that's sort of where we're at.
No, we've got a fight coming up. What can we look for in this fight? If a fight does emerge, what do you think is just a steal attempt? Never mind. Biggest ever snowball coming in. Who's the focus? It's 3-man knockup. Railgun in on top. In goes the Lee Sin. Mars Hero unstoppable, but he will fall. It's 2-1 in favor of UAL, and now they're looking to turn things around. The course, they're healing for the Silas, but it's not enough. Senna popping off with the picks, and will now be a 2v1. The silence is there. The arcane comic comes through. It's an ace for UAL, and it was quite literally a fight of small margin.
I said if they can get through that front line with burst before the sustain starts kicking in, UAL will have a shot, and that's exactly what happened. The Nunu got absolutely obliterated at the start of the fight, and then 2 big bursts are dropped on 18A25 to stop him from getting his sustain going, from being able to clean out the fight. And they both fall immediately, and the fight is cleaned up afterwards by UAL, who secure that dragon and make their way over towards that Cloud Soul, which is a really, really scary soul against basically every member of this UAL team.
All of a sudden, you've got a Malzahar who's Malzahar is going to be able to drop his ult more quickly, and that's a huge CC change of corruption as well. And then you have to remember the movement speed that could be coming through onto Batiste Karma.
Yeah, exactly. It's scary across the board. All of these members can use the movement speed or the increased pick potential from having more ultimates more often very well. As speaking of pick potential, well,
it's 3v1, and Masked Hero, well, he's going to have to channel his inner Zoro, and he's somewhat doing that as the teleports come through. Does he want to go in? There's a teleport now, but the rest of blue side are here. 18 picks up as with 1 kill. Flash out will be able to keep the center alive. Masked Hero so low, and now UAL looking for vengeance as they pick up their second kill of the fight. 2 for 1 on the top side of the map. Piercing arrow not quite going to be able to connect onto the YIA support.
oh, it's a close one, but now the overcommitment comes from YIA. Again, it seems that each fight is just sort of decided by overcommitment this and overcommitment that, as the poke getting so close, but not quite landing yet, however.
Did not want to let the tower go, and that just might have been his biggest sin. Somehow, the Jin survives. Curtain Call is dropped, and it will do very little except chip away at the health bars of UAL. I think only the first shot hit, and now UAL just turned their attention towards just clearing out the jungle completely from YIA.
Yeah, the Curtain Call just dissuading UAL from trying to push through into it, but, you know, they're pretty happy with this exchange. They got the tower, they got the kills, they get the jungle camps as well. These are all going to be marked as dubs in their diary for sure, as they reset and look towards their next potential play.
Now, I was just wondering if production could give us a quick stat check on the Senna, so we can see how many mists she has collected and how close she is.
Yeah.
I think 80 is a magical number right now.
I don't think it matters too much. Let's have a look-see at Psytrance. We might have that window just disabled, in which case we wouldn't. Yeah, and I think that's the case. I think we can't have that one checked, but we'll get it eventually.
Pretend like we know what number it's at. Just be like 75. I don't know. I feel like it'd be more than 75. I feel like we're at 100 already. I feel.
I've got no clue, to be honest with you. It's really, it comes down to the individual. Some teams will really, you know, and some center players will really play around getting the souls and, you know, following people around for every wave and every jungle camp, because clearing a jungle gives like 7 or 8 souls, right? Or clearing a quadrant of the jungle, I mean. So it's something that really can vary a lot, but well, it doesn't vary. He's found in every single game. That's going to be El Baron Nasher, and I do not believe that the TP is available right now for 18.
It is not. The Baron down low, and the Baron has been secured. Star lockdown. Star taking down Masked Hero with the Warthog over the River Wall. Will take him out to safety. For UAL, it's the Baron and a kill.
All right, a fair amount of money being secured there. A bit of play potential also. Grab that Baron, see if they can't try to crack open the base on this play. They're 5v4, honestly. Depending on how they approach it, they could be looking to end the game if they find a well-placed chain of corruption. Once that one is back up and available in just a couple of seconds, as the DPS coming onto the tower from those minions isn't going to be enough, with the rest of UAL dispersing and wanting to play a little bit more towards the soul instead, setting up this death brush. That bait might have been a little bit too obvious. That's a good bait, though.
You asked for a good chains of corruption, and they have found the Masked Hero. The railgun comes through. Do they want more? Do they return towards the Drake? The answer will be the latter. There's a chip with a piercing arrow from a crossfire, but now, because of that, YIA have had time. All 5 members are up. The blast gun only takes 1 over the wall, and for the body bet, he's going to have to take the long way round. Start, he's got the flash. Well, that's going to be a kill coming through from Leo, and Star Nizzy doesn't even try to attempt the steal.
No way is he going to get up with that one. It's just a Cloud Soul. I mean, that's pretty bad, but don't want to risk losing the game for it at this point. And I have to say that is my favorite way to bait, is to just drop a blue ward in the bush that you're in or slightly outside it, so people think that, oh, they don't have vision there, that's why they ward it, right? And make it really obvious, even through fog. But they jump the gun a little bit early. on that one. However, it works out in the end, threatening people away and securing the dragon for themselves, as now University of the Arts London make their way through to this bottom inhibitor, having already secured the first. They have a large Baron empowered wave, and they look to end.
University of the Arts London, they painted a beautiful game so far. Can they finish off in the same way? Topside, they crack open the base. The Nexus towers being taken down low. They look for the insect. Good flash from Crossfire. Now Masked Hero might be getting caught out. Able to land the Sonic Wave. Does he go in with a Resonating Strike? For now, no. Curtain Force chipping away, but there's going to be a third wave of super minions crashing in. Chain Destruction, land on Silas. He goes golden. Volley Bear jumping in. That's a piercing arrow to pick up the kill. The Karma will fall, but it does not matter because UAL are too strong as they look to pick up their first win of the semi-finals, and they do so in relatively dominant fashion.
Yeah, it was a bit back and forth early on in the game. YIA putting